The night sky was clear over the small town of Pine Ridge, Wyoming. Stars shone brightly above the empty streets. It was almost midnight, and most of the town was asleep. Not Jack Miller, though. The 32-year-old chef was still at his diner. Home, cooking, wiping down counters and putting away the last of the clean dishes. Jack looked around his small restaurant with pride. It wasn't fancy, but locals loved his food. The red booths were a bit worn, and the checkered floor had seen better days. But the place was clean and the food was good. That was all that mattered to Jack. He turned off the grill and was about to shut the lights when he saw something strange through the window. A bright blue light flashed across the sky. Then another. And another. Must be a meteor shower, Jack said to himself. He wasn't much into space stuff, but he enjoyed a good light show as much as anyone. He continued cleaning until a loud boom shook the building. It sounded like something had crashed in the woods behind his diner. The lights flickered, and Jack froze. What on earth was that, he wondered. It could have been a fallen tree or maybe a car crash on the back road. Either way, someone might need help. Jack grabbed his flashlight from under the counter and his first aid kit from the storage room. If someone was hurt, he wanted to be ready. He locked the diner door behind him and walked toward the woods. The night was quiet except for the sound of crickets and the soft crunch of Jack's boots on the gravel path. The beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness as he made his way deeper into the trees. After about 10 minutes of walking, Jack smelled something strange. It was like burnt metal and ozone. The hairs on his arms stood up. Something wasn't right. Then he saw it. In a small clearing ahead, something had made a long groove in the earth, like a crash landing. At the end of this path sat what looked like... Jack blinked several times, sure his eyes were playing tricks on him. It was some kind of ship, but unlike any plane or helicopter he'd ever seen. It was oval-shaped and about the size of a small bus. Its surface gleamed silvery blue in the moonlight, except for a damaged section on one side that sparked occasionally. "Hello?" Jack called out, his voice shaking slightly. "Is anyone hurt? Do you need help?" For a few seconds there was only silence. Then, with a soft hiss, a section of the ship slid open. Jack took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. 2 figures emerged from the ship. They were about Jack's height but thinner. Their skin was a pale blue color that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. They had human-like faces with large almond-shaped eyes that reflected the light like a cat's. Their hair was silver and flowed down their backs like liquid metal. Despite their strange appearance, they had feminine features. They wore matching silver jumpsuits with strange symbols on the chest. Jack stood frozen, his mouth hanging open. They were clearly not human. Were they aliens? Real, actual aliens? The two beings looked at Jack, then at each other. They seemed weak, swaying slightly as they stood near their damaged ship. Then the strangest thing happened. Jack heard a voice in his head. "Greetings, Earth being. We mean no harm." Jack looked around, confused. The voice had been clear as day, but no one had spoken out loud. "We are communicating through thoughts. Our universal translator allows this," came the voice again. It was soft and feminine. What are you?" Jack asked out loud, feeling silly talking to thin air. "I am Lyra," said one of the beings, placing a 6-fingered hand on her chest. "And this is Vela," she added, gesturing to her companion. "We come from a star system you call Cygnus. We did not plan to land here." Vela's voice echoed in Jack's mind. "Our ship malfunctioned. The emergency landing damaged our food storage units." For the first time, Jack noticed how thin they looked. Their faces seemed drawn and they leaned against each other for support. "We have not eaten in 7 of your Earth days," Lyra explained. "We need nourishment to repair our ship and continue our journey." Jack's initial fear began to fade. These weren't monsters or invaders from a horror movie. They were travelers who had crashed and needed help. They were hungry. And if there was one thing Jack knew how to handle, it was hungry people. "Can help with that," Jack said, his confidence returning. "I'm a chef. I own a diner just through these woods. I can give you food." The aliens looked at each other again, their large eyes blinking in surprise. You would share your food with unknown beings? Vela asked, her mental voice tinged with disbelief. Jack shrugged. You're hungry? I have food. It's pretty simple. In our travels, we have encountered many species, Lyra said. Few offer help so quickly to strangers, especially those who look different. Well, welcome to Earth, I guess, Jack replied with a small smile. Can you walk? My diner is about 10 minutes from here. The aliens nodded and took careful steps forward. They were clearly weak from hunger. Without thinking, Jack moved to support Lyra, who seemed the weaker of the two. He was surprised to find her skin was warm to the touch, not cold as he had expected. Thank you, Jack Miller, Lyra said in his mind. How do you know my name? Jack asked, startled. When our minds connect for communication, some surface thoughts transfer as well, Vela explained. We cannot read deep thoughts without permission. Jack led them slowly through the woods, his flashlight lighting the way. He had so many questions. Were there more of them? Why had they come to Earth? Would his food even be safe for them to eat? But those questions could wait. Right now, he had 2 hungry visitors to feed, and that was something he knew exactly how to handle. As they reached the edge of the woods, the lights of Jack's diner glowed in the distance. The aliens stopped for a moment, taking in the sight of the small building with its neon home cookin' sign. This is your dwelling? Lyra asked. That's my diner, Jack explained. I cook food for people there, and tonight I'm cooking for you too. As he led them across the empty parking lot, Jack couldn't help but smile at the absurdity of the situation. His mom had always told him his cooking would bring all kinds of people to his door. She just never mentioned it might include visitors from another star system. Jack unlocked the door to his diner and flipped on the lights. The fluorescent bulbs buzzed to life, revealing the empty restaurant with its red booths and checkered floor. He guided Lyra and Vela to a booth near the kitchen. Sit here, he said, helping Lyra onto the cushioned seat. I'll make you something to eat. The aliens looked around the diner with wide, curious eyes. They touched the smooth tabletop and the plastic menus with gentle fingers, as if everything was new and strange. What do your people eat? Jack asked as he tied his apron around his waist. I don't know what's safe for you. Vela pulled a small device from her pocket. It was flat and round like a silver hockey puck. This can scan your food to check if it is safe for our bodies, she explained in his mind. Jack nodded and headed to the kitchen. He stood in front of his refrigerator, thinking hard. What do you cook for aliens? He decided to make a little bit of everything. He started with his famous burgers, then moved on to a vegetable stir-fry with rice. He made a pot of chicken soup, a fresh salad, and took some bread from the freezer to warm in the oven. By the time he was done, the counter was filled with different dishes. Jack carried the food out on several trays. He set everything on the table and watched as the aliens scanned each dish with their silver device. The device beeped and flashed. Green lights. Your food contains nutrients we can process, Lyra said. Some compounds are new to us, but none appear harmful. Great, Jack said with a smile. Let's start with the soup. It's gentle on an empty stomach. He ladled hot chicken soup into bowls and placed them in front of the aliens. Lyra and Vela looked at the steaming liquid, then at the spoons Jack had set beside the bowls. Like this, Jack said, picking up his own spoon and showing them how to use it. The aliens copied his movements carefully. When they tasted the soup, their large eyes grew even wider. They looked at each other in what seemed like shock. This has flavor, Vela said, her mental voice filled with wonder. Well, yeah, Jack replied, confused. That's kind of the point of food. You don't understand, Lyra explained. On our world, food is only for survival. We have nutrition capsules that contain all we need to live. They have no taste, no smell, no pleasure. Jack couldn't imagine such a thing. Food without flavor? That sounded terrible to him. Try the burger next, he suggested, pushing the plate toward them. The aliens examined the burger from all angles, before taking small bites. Their reactions were even stronger than before. Vela made a sound like a bell ringing, which Jack realized must be their version of a gasp. The textures, the mix of flavors. Lyra's thoughts almost shouted in Jack's head. How can one food have so many different tastes at once? Jack laughed. That's just a basic cheeseburger. Wait until you try the rest. Over the next hour, Jack watched as the aliens tried every dish he had prepared. They approached each new food with scientific curiosity, but their reactions were pure joy. The stir-fry made them sway in their seats. The fresh bread with butter brought tears to their eyes, actual tears that shimmered silver on their blue cheeks. As they ate, they told Jack about their world. They came from a planet called Lyria, many light years from Earth. Their people had mastered space travel centuries ago and had visited many worlds. They were explorers and scientists, studying other life forms across the galaxy. Our civilization is very old, Vela explained as she tried the salad. We solved all our basic problems long ago, disease, war, hunger, but we lost some things along the way. Like cooking? Jack asked. Like many simple pleasures, Lyra said. Our focus on efficiency and technology made us forget the joy in everyday things. Jack thought this was sad. He couldn't imagine a world without the smell of fresh bread or the taste of a good meal shared with friends. I have one more thing for you to try, he said, getting up from the table. He went to the kitchen and came back with 2 slices of apple pie and scoops of vanilla ice cream. The alien scanned the dessert and looked puzzled. Why serve food at the end that is different from the main meal? Vela asked. It's dessert, Jack explained. It's sweet. You eat it at the end as a treat. The aliens took small bites of pie and ice cream. The effect was immediate. Their blue skin flushed purple, and they both made the bell-ringing sound again. Louder this time. The cold and the warm together, Lyra exclaimed. And this sweetness, it's like nothing we've ever experienced. Jack smiled, pleased by their reaction. There was something special about watching someone enjoy food he had made, even if that someone wasn't human. Why would you prepare all this for strangers? Vela asked after finishing her dessert. You didn't know us. We could have been dangerous. Jack thought about it for a moment. You were hungry, he said simply. Where I come from, you don't let people go hungry if you can help it. It doesn't matter who they are. The aliens were quiet for a long time after that. They looked at each other in that way they had, like they were sharing thoughts Jack couldn't hear. In our studies of other worlds, Lyra finally said, we have found that advanced technology does not always mean advanced thinking. Your people have a saying, the way to the heart is through the stomach. We didn't understand what it meant until now. Jack started clearing the empty plates. You can stay here tonight, he offered. There's a small apartment upstairs where I live. You can use my bed, and I'll take the couch. Tomorrow we can figure out how to fix your ship. The aliens stood up, steadier now with food in their bellies. Thank you, Jack Miller, they said together, their mental voices blending into one. Your kindness will not be forgotten. As Jack led them upstairs to his apartment, he wondered what his regular customers would think if they knew who had just eaten at his diner. He decided some things were better kept secret. Besides, who would believe that 2 aliens from another planet had declared his apple pie the most amazing thing in the known galaxy? The morning sun shone through the windows of Jack's small apartment above the diner. He woke up on the couch with a stiff neck and for a moment forgot about his strange guests. Then he heard soft voices in his kitchen and remembered everything. Jack sat up and saw Lyra and Vela examining his coffee maker with great interest. They were touching the buttons and sniffing the coffee grounds. Good morning, Jack said, stretching his sore back. Did you sleep okay? The aliens turned to him. They looked much better than they had the night before. Their blue skin glowed with health, and their silver hair shimmered in the sunlight. Your sleeping platform was very comfortable, Lyra said, in his mind. Thank you for your hospitality. We were curious about this device, Vela added, pointing to the coffee maker. It smells interesting. That's for making coffee, Jack explained as he got up and walked to the kitchen. It's a drink that helps humans wake up in the morning. Want to try some? The aliens watched closely as Jack made coffee. When it was ready, he poured 3 cups and handed 2 to his guests. They scanned it with their device, then took careful sips. It's bitter, Lyra said, her mental voice surprised. But also pleasing. Try it with sugar and cream, Jack suggested, adding some to his own cup to show them. After breakfast, Jack took the aliens to their crashed ship. In the daylight, he could see it better. The ship was smooth and oval-shaped, with no visible seams except where a section had been damaged in the crash. We need materials to repair our ship, Vela explained. Some we can find in your forests, but others we will need from your town. What kind of materials? Jack asked, worried. I can't exactly walk into the hardware store and ask for alien spaceship parts. Basic elements, Lyra said. Copper, aluminum, silicon. Things your people use every day. Jack thought for a moment. I have some old electronics in my storage room. An old TV, some broken kitchen appliances. Would those help? Aliens looked at each other, then nodded. Those would be very useful, Vela said. Over the next 3 days, Jack helped the aliens gather what they needed. During the day, he worked in his diner, serving the usual customers. At night, he brought food to Lyra and Vela at their ship and watched them work on repairs. On the 4th day, Jack made them pasta with garlic bread for dinner. They sat in a small clearing near the ship, eating from plates Jack had brought from the diner. This might be my favorite Earth food yet, Lyra said as she twirled pasta around her fork the way Jack had shown her. Jack, Vela said after a moment of silence, there is something we haven't told you about our mission here. Jack looked up from his plate, suddenly nervous. What do you mean? The aliens exchanged glances again, having one of their silent conversations. Finally, Lyra spoke. Our people have been watching Earth for a very long time, she explained. For over 500 of your years. That long? Jack asked, surprised. Why? We monitor many developing worlds, Vela said. We watch them grow, develop technology, and sometimes destroy themselves. Jack felt a chill despite the warm evening. And Earth, how do we look to you? That is why we were sent here, Lyra continued. Our leaders needed a final assessment before deciding whether to make contact with humans officially or to mark your planet as not ready. Not ready? Jack asked. What does that mean? It means Earth would be placed under extended observation, Vela explained. No contact would be allowed for perhaps another century or more. Jack put down his fork. And what's your assessment going to be? The aliens were quiet for a long moment. Then Lyra spoke softly in his mind. Our usual criteria for contact is based on technological advancement and peaceful coexistence. By these measures, Earth is problematic. We still fight wars, Jack said, nodding. We haven't solved hunger or disease. We're not as advanced as your people. Yes, Vela agreed. By our traditional standards, Earth would be classified as not ready for contact. Jack felt a strange sadness. He had grown to like these visitors, and the idea that their people might decide humans weren't worth talking to hurt more than he expected. But, Lyra added, our time with you has made us question our assessment methods. What do you mean? Jack asked. When our ship crashed, Vela explained, you found us. We were strangers, aliens who could have been dangerous, yet your first instinct was to feed us. In all our studies of developing worlds, Lyra continued, we have focused on measuring technology and political systems. We never thought to measure kindness. Jack shrugged, embarrassed by their praise. Anyone would have done the same. No, Vela said firmly. They would not. Many of your own people would have feared us, captured us, or tried to profit from our existence. You simply helped us. And then there is your food, Lyra added, holding up a piece of garlic bread. On our world, we lost the joy of eating in our quest for efficiency. We never realized what we had given up. What are you saying? Jack asked. We are saying, Vela replied, that perhaps our civilization has been using the wrong measures of advancement. Perhaps the ability to show kindness to strangers to find joy in simple things like a shared meal. Perhaps these are more important signs of an advanced society than we realized. Jack didn't know what to say. He was just a small-town chef who liked feeding people. He never thought his cooking would become part of an alien assessment of all humanity. "We will need to think about this more," Lyra said, finishing her pasta. "Our repairs are almost complete. Soon we must return to our homeworld with our report." "What will you tell your leaders?" Jack asked. The aliens looked at each other again. Their faces were hard to read, but Jack thought he saw something like determination in their large eyes. "We do not know yet," Vela admitted, "but we are thinking very differently about Earth and our own civilization than we were before we met you." As they finished their meal, the sun set behind the trees, casting long shadows across the clearing. Jack gathered the empty plates, thinking about what the aliens had said. He had fed 2 hungry strangers because it seemed like the right thing to do. He never imagined that this simple act might change how an advanced alien civilization viewed all of humanity. The next day, Jack closed his diner early. He had been thinking all night about what Lyra and Vela had told him. If they were going back to their planet soon with a report about Earth, he wanted to show them more of what humans had to offer. Drove to the nearest big grocery store an hour away from Pine Ridge. There he filled his cart with ingredients he didn't normally keep at the diner: spices from around the world, exotic fruits, special cheeses, and chocolate. He wanted to prepare a meal that would show the aliens the diversity of Earth's food cultures. When he returned, the sun was setting. He found Lyra and Vela at their ship, working on the final repairs. The damaged section now looked almost perfect, with only a slight color difference showing where the new materials had been added. "The ship will be ready by tomorrow," Vela said when she saw Jack. "We can leave after that." Jack felt a strange mix of emotions. He was sad they would be leaving so soon, but also proud that he had helped them. "Then tonight, we need a special dinner," he said, holding up his grocery bags. "I want to show you more of what Earth has to offer before you go." The aliens followed him back to the diner. While they sat at a booth, Jack got to work in the kitchen. He prepared a feast with dishes from different parts of the world. He made Mexican enchiladas with spicy sauce, Indian curry with rice, Italian risotto, Chinese stir-fry, and French pastries for dessert. When everything was ready, Jack brought out the dishes one by one, explaining where each food came from and what made it special. "These foods are all so different," Lyra said as she tasted the curry. "How can one planet have so many ways of cooking?" "That's what makes Earth special," Jack explained. "We have many different cultures, languages, and traditions. Sometimes that causes problems when people don't understand each other, but it also means we have all this variety." "And all these foods, they help bring people together?" Vela asked. "Food is one of the best ways to share culture," Jack said. "When people eat together, they learn about each other. A meal can be a peace offering, a celebration, or a way to show love." The aliens tried each dish carefully, their eyes wide with wonder. When they tasted the chocolate dessert, they made their bell-ringing sound again, louder than ever before. "This is beyond anything we imagined," Lyra said, her mental voice filled with emotion. "Your planet may have problems, but you have treasures, too." After dinner, Lyra and Vela asked to be excused. They walked outside the diner and stood in the parking lot looking up at the stars. Jack watched through the window as they seemed to be having an intense conversation. When they returned, their faces were serious. "Jack Miller," Vela said as they sat down again. "We have made a decision about our report." Jack felt his heart beat faster. "What did you decide?" "We believe the traditional approach our leaders expect, a simple yes or no on whether Earth is ready for contact, would not serve either of our worlds well," Lyra explained. "Instead," Vela continued, "we plan to propose something different. A new kind of first contact." "What kind?" Jack asked. "Not through governments or military channels," Lyra said. "Not with big ships landing in your cities causing fear. We want to suggest starting with cultural exchange," Vela explained. "Beginning with food." Jack blinked in surprise. "Food? How would that work?" "We would send a small team of cultural Experts, disguised to look human, to learn about Earth's foods and share some of our own traditions, Lyra said. A soft approach that builds understanding before any official political contact. We believe sharing meals could build trust between our peoples, Vela added. Just as it did between us and you. Jack sat back in his chair, amazed. All this because I made you a cheeseburger and some apple pie? The aliens made a sound that Jack now recognized as laughter. Not just because of the food itself, Lyra clarified. Because of what it showed us about humanity, your willingness to share, to help strangers, to find joy in simple things. Our civilization is very old, Vela added. We have advanced technology and have solved many problems, but we have lost some things along the way, things your people still value. Like taking pleasure in a meal? Jack asked. Like finding beauty in everyday life, Lyra corrected him. Like helping others without expecting anything in return. Jack felt his face grow warm. I'm just one person. Plenty of humans aren't so nice. True, Vela agreed. But we have been watching your world. There are many like you. Enough to make us believe contact would benefit both our peoples. Our proposal will not be easy to sell to our leaders, Lyra admitted. They prefer the old ways, the careful observation from a distance, but we will try. What can I do to help? Jack asked. You have done enough already, Vela said, her mental voice gentle. But if our proposal is accepted, we may need a place to start our cultural exchange. A place where humans and our people could share food and stories. A place like this diner? Jack asked, understanding dawning on him. Exactly, Lyra confirmed. Would you be open to that possibility? To being a bridge between our worlds? Jack looked around his small diner. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. The idea that it could become the first meeting place between humans and an alien civilization was hard to believe. Yet somehow it felt right. I'd be honored, he said. This place has always been about feeding people. I guess it doesn't matter if those people come from down the street or across the galaxy. The aliens nodded, their large eyes shining with what looked like approval. We must leave tomorrow at dawn, Vela said. Our journey home will take several of your weeks. If our proposal is accepted, you will see us again, or others like us. How will I recognize them if they're disguised as humans? Jack asked. Lyra touched her wrist, and a small blue light glowed briefly. They will wear this symbol. It looks like jewelry to human eyes, but it is our mark. And they'll probably order everything on the menu, Jack joked. The aliens made their laughing sound, again. For the first time, Jack felt like he truly understood them. Despite coming from different worlds, they had found common ground in something as simple as sharing a meal. That night, as Jack lay on his couch again, he wondered what would happen next. Would the aliens return? Would their leaders accept such an unusual approach to first contact? And was he really ready to become Earth's first alien ambassador? Whatever happened, Jack knew one thing for sure. He would need to expand his menu. 3 months passed. Jack often found himself looking up at the night sky, wondering about Lyra and Vela. Had they made it home safely? What did their leaders think of their strange proposal? Would he ever see them again? Life in Pine Ridge went on as usual. Jack ran his diner, served his regular customers, and kept the secret of his alien visitors to himself. Who would believe him anyway? One Tuesday morning in October, Jack was preparing for the lunch rush when the bell above the door jingled. He looked up and froze. 2 women had entered the diner. They looked human at first glance. One had dark skin and curly black hair cut short. The other was pale with long red hair pulled back in a ponytail. But Jack noticed something familiar about the way they moved, the careful way they looked around the room. And on the wrist of the red-haired woman, a small piece of jewelry glowed faintly blue. Jack's heart raced. Could it be? He walked out from behind the counter and approached them. "Welcome to home cookin'," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "What can I get for you today?" The dark-skinned woman smiled. Jack Miller, she said, but her lips didn't move. The voice was in his head. It has been some time. Lyra, Jack whispered, making sure none of the other customers could hear. Lee? Woman nodded. And Vela, she added, gesturing to her companion. Jack led them to a quiet booth in the corner. You look different, he said, still amazed. These are biosynthetic suits, Vela explained in his mind. They allow us to appear human. Our proposal was accepted, Lyra continued, but with modifications. We are the first team sent to establish what our leaders call a culinary embassy. A what? Jack asked. A place where our people can learn about Earth culture through food, and where we can share some of our own traditions, in ways that won't seem too strange to humans, Vela said. And you want to set this up here? In my diner? Jack asked. Lyra nodded. If you are still willing, we have resources that can help improve your establishment without changing its character. What kind of resources? Jack asked. Technology that can be disguised as ordinary kitchen equipment, funds to expand your space, and knowledge of flavors from across the galaxy that we can adapt to Earth ingredients, Vela explained. Jack thought about it. His diner was doing okay, but it wasn't exactly thriving. Pine Ridge was too small and too far from the highway to attract many tourists. This could be a chance to grow his business and to be part of something much bigger. I'm in, he said. What's the plan? The next few weeks were busy. The aliens, now calling themselves Leah and Valerie in public, helped Jack renovate his diner. They closed for 2 weeks for what the locals were told was a kitchen upgrade. In reality, they were installing equipment that looked normal but could do amazing things like keep food at the perfect temperature for days or blend flavors in ways no Earth machine could manage. They also expanded the back room, creating what appeared to be extra storage but was actually a communication center where the aliens could contact their homeworld. When the diner reopened, Jack announced a new, weekly special event called Universal Cuisine Night. Every Thursday, the diner would serve experimental fusion dishes that combined familiar flavors with new exotic tastes. The locals were skeptical at first, but curious. The first Universal Cuisine Night drew a small crowd, mostly regulars who wanted to support Jack, but the food was a hit. The star-spiced chicken and cosmic berry pie quickly became favorites, with people asking for the recipes. Jack just smiled and said they were family secrets. What the customers didn't know was that these dishes included small amounts of safe, non-Earth spices and flavors that Lyra and Vela had brought with them. The aliens were careful to make sure everything was safe for humans, but the exotic tastes kept people coming back for more. Word spread. Soon, people from neighboring towns were driving to Pine Ridge just to try Jack's strange new menu. A food blogger from the nearest city wrote about the hidden gem in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly the diner was packed every night. More aliens arrived over time, always disguised as humans. Some worked in the kitchen, learning Earth cooking techniques. Others posed as customers, studying how humans socialized around food. All wore the small blue jewelry that marked them as part of the exchange program. 6 months after Lyra and Vela's return, Jack was in the back room, talking with them over a late dinner when they shared surprising news. Our leaders are impressed with the success of our mission, Lyra said. They have decided to move forward with the next phase. What does that mean? Jack asked. More embassies will be established around the world, Vela explained. Small restaurants, food trucks, cafes, all serving as meeting points between our peoples. But they will follow our example, Lyra added. Quiet, gentle integration. No big announcements, no panic, just shared meals and cultural exchange. And what about official contact? Jack asked. When will your leaders announce themselves to our governments? That is still years away, Vela said. But the foundation is being built, one meal at a time. Jack looked around the back room, which had become the unofficial first embassy between Earth and an alien civilization. It was hard to believe that it had all started with him feeding 2 hungry strangers. I have something for you, Lyra said, handing Jack a small box. Inside was an official-looking document on a material that felt like paper but shimmered slightly. At the top were symbols Jack didn't recognize, but below them was English text that read, "Earth Culinary Ambassador Jack Miller is hereby recognized for his role in establishing peaceful first contact between our worlds." The document was signed, with more alien symbols, and at the bottom was a simple sentence. "The being who shares food shares more than nourishment. They share the very essence of their humanity." Jack felt tears in his eyes. He had never imagined his small-town diner would become the starting point for humanity's relationship with the stars. He had never imagined that his simple act of feeding two hungry strangers would change the course of history. "Thank you," he said to Lyra and Vela, "for trusting me, for seeing the best in us." "No," Vela replied, her mental voice warm. "Thank you for showing us that true advancement isn't measured by technology, but by kindness." Jack smiled and raised his coffee cup. "To Universal Cuisine Night," he said. "May it be the first of many shared meals between our worlds." The aliens raised their cups too, their human disguises smiling, but their true joy reaching Jack's mind directly. Together they had found a path to the stars, not through grand speeches or military might, but through the simple universal pleasure of breaking bread together. And that night, as the small blue planet called Earth turned beneath the stars, thousands of light years away, other civilizations were receiving messages about a small diner in a place called Wyoming, where the journey toward a more connected galaxy had begun with a simple meal.